Okay. Being recorded.
So thanks a lot for being here, Apollonia.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the Rossfechten program because that's one of the things I always want to participate in, and I never could. Well, it's not that I couldn't. I don't have the horse, and I don't have people around here that I could practice with. So I appreciate you making it and coming out here.
Yeah. No, that would be awesome. So yeah, so the Rossfechten program, I guess I don't know a lot of the people in here. I'm looking at the names list other than Gisa.
And
So
you can go and do a small introduction if you would like to, or introduce yourself. I don't know how many people actually know you. So we maybe can start with you introducing yourself, and otherwise, if you want to introduce yourself to Apollonia, please feel free to do so.
all right. So I'm Stallmeisterin Apollonia Zwamsticker from the Outlands, and right now I'm the Society Deputy for the Rossfechten program. So I'm super excited to see everyone here that's interested in participating in that program. I did hear when I first logged in, there was a question about whether it was still experimental. At the moment it is, but it's actually, we are in the process of releasing it to the society as a whole. We are going to retain the steel as an experimental program, and we are going to be hopefully adding lance fencing to the experimental side of things. So if that answers that one question that snuck in. And just huge apologies for being late. I appreciate everyone's patience with my technological failings. So.
Ed, do you want to just introduce yourself real quick? Just like
I'm Edward Ian Anderson.
Us.
I'm Edward Ian Anderson. I'm the KEO for Ontario, the Kingdom of Ontario. So I'll be picking your brain about how you're going to be releasing those rules, and if we need to redo our book of horse.
Sure, 100%.
I'll just introduce myself here for those of you who don't know me. I'm Apollonia's predecessor. I'm the one who started the program about 8 years ago. Hey, oh my God. Hey, how you doing? Anyway, so yeah, that's about it. I'm not going to step on Apollonia's toes here because she's been doing an amazing job. We've been doing. I'd like to think that we laid the groundwork in that first 8 years, demonstrating that we could safely do this, that we could safely do it with both synthetics and to a certain extent steel. We've got a lot more data on the synthetics. That's plastic. It's a fancy word for plastic. But you know what? I think this program started, I'd have to look it up, about 2015, and we have not had a single significant injury to rider or, more importantly, of course, horse since then. So I think it's more than time, and Apollonia is just absolutely the person to make it happen.
Awesome.
So, okay.
Hi, Catherine. Ravens Hill, as opposed to the other Catherine on the call. My partner Norbert and I started into SCA Equestrian about a year ago. And so we're still learning a lot about a lot of things.
Hi, this is Epi. I am a marshal in Atlantia, and we are trying to revive some of the more specialized activities. So mounted combat, jousting, mounted archery, and this. So it'd be great to get involved.
I guess I can introduce myself. My name is Katane. I am a regional marshal of the East Kingdom. We've actually, I don't think, done anything with this program in the East. I'm just kind of listening in and seeing what it's about. I know the basics, and that's about it. We actually just had our first joust in maybe 5 years last weekend, 2 weekends ago. So we're trying to do more of the equestrian community, but we only have across the kingdom, maybe 50 authorized riders, and a lot of them aren't active.
Hi, I'm William or Connell McShane. I live in Principality Summit, Southern Ontario. Did Rossfechten off and on way back when it started, and looking to get back into equestrian in general, and looking forward to seeing it not be experimental anymore. So thanks for your work on making that happen.
So I think, is that everybody that wanted to?
I'll jump in. I'm Lancer Gwendolyn of Shadowed Stars. I'm hail from Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I'm the KEO for the Middle Kingdom. We don't have any authorized marshals of Rossfechten in our kingdom, as Katya, who is just approved, moved over to North Shield. So we're excited about the program and look forward to supporting it.
Perfect. Very cool. Excited to have you. All right, awesome. So I guess, I don't know, Gesa, what is your format for this? Is this a general Q&A? Do you want me to kind of deliver a State of the Union? What did you have in mind?
Whatever works best for you. That was basically normally when I have somebody joining us to cover something, I normally turn it over what works best for you. So if you want to start with where we are right now on society level, what everybody should know that wants to start the program, and then you're okay with answering questions as they come along, you have the next hour to yourself and entertaining us, informing us.
All right, awesome. So for anyone here that's not familiar with the Rossfechten program, what we are trying to recreate is the art of historical fencing on horseback. Here in the Outlands, this has actually been very well accepted by our rapier community because we're using the same manuals and manuscripts that they are for all of the rapier and the cut and thrust. We're just getting to the back of the book that they have so far left alone. I'm not sure how it will go in other kingdoms, but here it's really nice to have not one, but two communities embracing the program. With Rossfechten, it's actually a really easy one for people to get involved in because it doesn't require as much equipment as, say, jousting or even the mounted combat does. We're using, with the synthetics, it's basically rapier level armor is what we're requiring. It parallels very well to that. So for someone to get in the door, they need a synthetic weapon, a pair of gloves, a gorget, and a fencing mask. And that's it. So very simple to get into, very affordable to get into. But that being said, one of the things that I really like about Rossfechten and bringing that to the known world as a whole is because Rossfechten is unique in that anyone can participate on any horse and have a great time. And the manuscripts do show, participating at a walk, participating at a trot, standing still. But to get to the upper levels, what I've really seen in some of the kingdoms that are pursuing this really actively is that it's upping the level of horsemanship within those communities. And we're not actually doing anything to require that or drive that. It's just people participating and becoming more interested in the historical riding and taking the initiative to step that up on their own, which is actually a really cool side effect. So hopefully as other kingdoms get involved, you guys will see that with your participants as well. And then of course that carries over into all of the other activities. Is anyone in here running the Rossfechten program that has a similar experience with like overall horsemanship and riding and the program helping with that, encouraging that at all? All right, so something to look forward to. As far as we are preparing to release this from being an experimental program to part of the normal everyday equestrian handbook. So I know, Edward, you asked about having to worry about updating your book of the horse. And what I would strongly suggest to all kingdoms is as much as you can, obeying local laws and regulations, I would encourage everyone to follow the society handbook. That does a couple of things. First of all, it's less work for you to have to rewrite a second handbook, but it also makes it to where we have universal rules across the board for any kingdom. And I'm bringing this because I used to show reining and quarter horse, and it's the same rule book no matter where you show in the world, with the exception of obviously local laws and regulations. Like in Germany, you can't clip your horse's muzzle, and we like to do that when we show them. But so something to consider for you, Edward, you can always put a disclaimer. What we did is just refer to the society handbook in our kingdom handbook for things like that, unless there's stuff that you absolutely need to change. What we're waiting on right now is the. Go ahead, Edward.
We're in the process of a rewrite right now, and we're getting ready to publish. So that's why I was asking that question.
Okay, good. Good to know then. So with what we're waiting on right now with the rulebooks, we were kind of hoping to have this rolled out in June, but with everything else going on, it's looking like it's going to get pushed back to later in the summer. But primarily the big thing that's going on, and I'm not sure if how many of you guys are aware of this, but our Society Earl Marshal is revamping all of the society handbooks for all martial activities, which includes equestrian. And what they're attempting to do is create a standardized template. And some of those rules transcend all different forms of martial activity. So parts of handbooks will be identical to one another. And where they're not identical, they're going to be formatted very similarly. And so as we're getting this new handbook template rolled out, things are getting moved around. We're deciding what belongs in all the handbooks, what belongs only in equestrian versus heavy. So that's kind of where it's at. It's going to be really awesome. Yes, go Arabella. It's amazing. It's going to make it so much easier for everyone to find what they need to know when they're looking for rules. So that's kind of the hang up right now. But aside from that, and then like I said, we are going to be retaining the steel as an experimental program. We're still needing more individuals who are comfortable and skilled to practice those arts and report in about how it's going before we can release that. So we need more data with the steel weapons. And then I'm going to also be writing up to add lance fencing as an experimental program once we release the synthetics, because being able to play with lances and lance versus sword is also something shown in the manuscript, which can be a lot of fun. And if you played with a spear on the rapier field, it's really addicting. So I'm just going to admit that. But
so if you don't, well, like we don't have anything, and I also don't have a horse that would be able to do a lot of the fancy maneuver that could stand, because that's what draft horses like to do. What would you recommend for us? And there's nobody doing Rossfechten in Pennsylvania that I know of. So how could I get it started, enticing people in my area or kingdom?
So all right, you're unfroze.
Okay. I'm not sure if that was going somewhere or not. So I was asking suggestions on how to get started. If I don't have anybody here, how can I train, or besides reading the manuals, how could I get this program started while nobody else is here?
Oh, that's a great question. So when you are the only one that wants to play this game, there are a lot of things you can do to get started. So the first one is work with your horse that you can comfortably ride one-handed. That's really the main thing, because you're going to have a sword in your other hand. So just like with any of the games or jousting, you need to have steering and brakes working with one hand or off your seat, however you want to do it. The next thing that you can do to practice your sword technique actually is to set up a pillar or pell in your arena. Or you can use a jump standard, anything that you have a chance to strike at. The biggest thing that I see on the Rossfechten field, and it's definitely something you want to practice, is projecting your sword forward. So you'll find a lot of folks, they'll wait and they'll get right next to each other before they cross blades. So what I do a lot of pell work to work on timing. So walk, trot, canter. And kind of like a levee with a lance, I want to get that sword to full extension to where just the tip is going to touch that pell as I ride by. And that's a great exercise. And it will make you super deadly and able to do a lot of the prettier things when you have an opponent, because your timing will be that much better. The other thing you can do with a pell is practice a lot of the different cuts. You can work on starting perhaps, say, in a middle guard or middle hoot and attempt different cuts from there. You know, and you can do this at a standstill, honestly. Like some of them are very challenging, especially if your horse is higher headed, to be, okay, how am I going to clear my horse's ears if I want to go from this guard to this cut? You know, finding out what you can and cannot do by yourself in your arena with your horse with a pell is a great way to start. And then as you get more comfortable with those cuts, you know, add them as you're riding past the pell, ride around the pell in a circle, and transition into those different cuts and thrusts. And so you can get pretty badass by yourself.
Thanks.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and also because I always try to grow our equestrian community. What would be a great way to entice others to join me?
So anybody can have any kind of non-official activity at their place that they want to hold. One thing that I've done is have Rossfechten practices that are not SCA events, where we can bring new people, and that's all we do. And because it's not an SCA event, we don't feel like we need to get games out or offer other activities. It can be very focused. Another great resource is, and just like recruiting for anything in the SCA, is find pockets of people that are part of our tribe. So for me, we've actually recruited, we've got a bunch of people coming out here now that are learning to ride. They don't have their own horses, but they're coming and playing from a local HEMA school. So they were already doing the sword stuff and thought the horse stuff sounded really cool. And now they're investing quite a bit of time in participating in that and growing their skills. They're also in the SCA. So now we've added, I think, 4 or 5 people to our equestrian group just in this Barony. So you just got to find the right kind of nerds. And there's 2 ways: is find sword people that are interested in horses, or find horse people that are interested in swords.
I've been trying to do that with mounted archery so far, but yeah.
Yeah. See, and I think mounted archery is scary because you got to drop the reins. And the last horse I tried that on, if we did it in a tilt, she'd just run off. So it wasn't really fun. You're braver than I am.
Enjoyed the freedom.
Huh?
I'm pretty sure your horse had more fun than you did.
I think so. Yeah, maybe.
Hey,
Maybe.
oh, I'm sorry, Helena. Do you mind if I interject something real quick? Because I'm listening to. So one of the things I've seen this several times on the various SCA Facebook pages, and actually in face-to-face discussions, and people will say, "Hey, this Rossfechten thing, it's amazing. I watched an Arnie Coates video, and I'll never be able to ride like that. So I'm just, you know, someday when I am a Grand Prix rider, I will start taking up Rossfechten, and I just want to tear my hair out, you know."
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
because it's like anything else. I mean, you can actually do this stuff. You can practice a lot at a walk. Now, obviously, you're not going to be a proficient Rossfechten person if you can only walk your horse. But you can still do a lot of the sword drills and things like that. And frankly, for sword work, you know, the manuals show half the time they're at a trot anyway, you know. Lance work, usually at a gallop or a canter. But the point being is that just like you can compete in any other sport at a low level, you can do that with Rossfechten. We need to kind of dispel the idea that we all have to go on a ride like, you know, Arne or Gesa, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
100%.
and of course I say that and she's off at the moment I say that, but that's okay.
Yeah. Well, and you're absolutely right. I mean, Fiore specifically shows a lot of horses at a walk or even suspiciously gating. Were they riding gated horses? It looks maybe that way. And from personal experience, I can tell anyone here that you can take your trail horse and go kick butt on the field by getting your sword work polished. So many, some of our fencers that are very beginner riders do pretty well because they're dangerous as soon as you get in measure. So keep that in mind. Any horse, any rider can do this. It's just, how the combination works. I see a hand raised.
Mishi, that's you.
Mishi?
Yeah, hi.
Mishi or Mishi? Sorry.
It's me, but in the SEA it's Epi. Sorry, I was having a laptop issue, so I'm on my phone, which is my backup. So as someone who knows nothing, where can I? So you're talking about the manuals. Do we have a website with the manuals on the website with translations or like a list of books, kind of like we have for writing before the print?
It's actually, so the one that I've been primarily using, because there's no need to reinvent the wheel on this, is Wiktenauer. So I'll post the link for that in the chat for you. Let me pull it up here and I can share it. It's a really, really great resource for all fencing books, but they specifically have a section for mounted in there where you can go through and look at a number of the different manuscripts. The one that they don't have on Wiktenauer that I would recommend looking up is by Casper Reuschlen, and it is it's all in German, so you'll have to ask Gesa to help you, or use Google Translate and hope that it makes sense. But that one is interesting because it's the only one I found that talks about training horses to do mounted combat. So that one is kind of that in-between one where he talks about, making passes with another horse, that's more seasoned to build their confidence and things like that. So I would add to it. Let me get the mounted combat page here.
Thank you.
For you guys.
I actually thought
we can keep
Lichtenauer
talking
was
while I
translated.
this website. Huh?
I thought Lichtenauer was translated by now. I thought I saw some English stuff from him.
Yeah, Wiktenauer is translated. But the book that I am referring to is not on Wiktenauer. You can find a digital version online, but I can't find a translation of it. Here we go. They've got a whole section on Wiktenauer for mounted fencing, which is fantastic. And then I can snag a link for the other manuscript too if you're interested in some of the training stuff. It has pictures, which is really great. I'm a big fan of pictures. So but yeah, and feel free to keep asking questions while I'm looking up stuff.
I've got one. So for reasons, I always ride with a ASTM helmet, a safety helmet. Has anyone successfully integrated that with the fencing mask?
Not that I've seen in my kingdom. Has anyone else had somebody put together something like a combination?
A long time ago, I built a fencing mask out of a police motorcycle helmet. And what I did is I used the Puncello metal, which is the ones with the round holes in it, and formed a grill and then did leather down the back of the side. it's doable. It's just complicated.
Well, that kind of explains horses, doesn't it?
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of things that we do.
But that might be a good experiment to do. I assume there would be a lot of people interested in it. Still having a riding helmet while being a fencing mask.
I've personally had a couple really bad falls in my life, and I just won't get up without helmets anymore. And that's my comfort level. So maybe that's something I can play with. See about making it possible.
And especially still maintaining it safe, because it's difficult sometimes to alter a riding helmet and adding something and maintain their safety features.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it would certainly void any warranties.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, but I said, you don't have to do crazy things to enjoy Rossfechten. And I think that's what I love most about it is, you know, the technique. And the fact that really anyone can participate in it pretty easily. So, all right. What else we got? I shared the book that has training horses for combat in it. Case is the only one that knows what the title means.
I don't think I'm
and the
only
link to
German-speaking one,
Lichtenauer's
am I?
mounted fencing.
Yeah,
Huh?
that's an incredibly ugly link. Sorry about that, but that does take you to the SCA Rossfechten page, which if you're interested in SCA Rossfechten, you really should be on that Facebook page if you're okay with Facebook. And that's like an old, that one's about 6 or 7 years old, but it's just a bunch of the manuals put together and a discussion of the plays and how they go out, and each play being like a, I don't know, how would you describe a play? Like a sequence? I don't know.
Just a quick note.
Yeah, so
oh yeah, sorry, Connell.
If I can for just a second, that I went to that link. It says I don't have permissions to update the page, so I think that's your link that you have permissions for.
Yeah, okay,
but I think if you just search for Rossfechten on Facebook, you can probably get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I'm
There you
amazed
go.
if you Google me, or if you're under my Facebook, you see Rossfechten is part of one of my groups.
Yeah. No.
On the synthetic swords, you're saying swords like the Rollings. Are they is Rolling manufacturer the approved manufacturer for those swords?
for the synthetics,
Yeah, for the synthetics.
yeah, so all the resources available on the SCA Rossfechten page.
Yeah. There it is. The one I was trying to share is the one that says a guide to Lichtenauer mounted swordplay. So it's down there. Sorry.
So I am searching the Rossfechten group on Facebook and nothing is coming up.
So what you have to do to get to the file, are you looking for the files specifically?
Well, you suggested joining the group. And so I was like, okay, let me join the group, and I cannot find the group.
Otherwise,
it is SCA Rossfechten. So it's going to have this cover picture here. It is a private group, so you do have to request to join.
So the shared link.
Did you find it?
Again, it's searching isn't helping, but the shared link worked.
Okay, perfect. So you found it?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, wonderful. And then once you get in there, me and Maddie are both admins. So like if anybody goes in and joins now, we can be on the lookout for those join requests to get you guys approved. But once you're on the page, you'll see, obviously there's a lot of great discussion. The meeting tonight was posted in here, the pictures that people are sharing. So super fun stuff in here that is going on. And even, you know, things like making bridles and stuff that just add to it. But if you're looking for what Maddie was talking about with the Lichtenauer, you're going to go to Files. And under the Files section in the Facebook group, you'll be able to find all of these really great articles that people have uploaded to the page. So here's the guide to Lichtenauer mounted swordplay that Maddie put together. I've got, I've put in a handout on footwork and the basic German guards. And then a number of other individuals have added some awesome stuff like saber fencing, like super cool stuff that you can come in and check out or print copies of and use for things like that. So
For somebody just
with my two, I've told folks if you want to, you know, do classes. Sorry?
No, I was just thinking, I think I'm like breaking in and out. Is there one you would suggest to get started with if somebody has no knowledge right now? This is a good first to read compared to other things?
The ones that I would do first would be the ones that me and Maddie put in here.
Okay.
So the guide to mounted swordplay that Maddie started with that's what I started with, and that's what I learned from. I still have my copy of it. And then these guards and the footwork handouts are the ones that I've done when I've been teaching classes, whether, you know, here I taught this footwork class in Germany or at Gulf Wars. And they're very, very basic. So it's just, you know, the footwork one you can do at home alone. You can try some of the figures and practice some of the things in there. The German style of fencing is just transitioning between guards. So if you figure out all the ways you can hold your sword, then moving your sword from one to the other is now you're doing fencing. And then, like I said, Maddie's is what I started with myself. So those are the three that I would recommend, you know, printing out and taking out to the barn with you, or bringing to your next equestrian practice.
And I think somebody else started that question. I think it was Ed, not sure anymore. How do you normally call a match or duel on horseback? What would be the term for it?
You know, I haven't seen any like specific terms for that. You know, we typically just call it an engagement or a pass.
Okay.
I don't know, Maddie, have you found any terms in any of your research?
You know, it's nothing official. I mean, you know, you know, if something were official, it would be like something like, you know, German and cool sounding. So we should probably ask Asa.
I make it up.
Yeah, you can make it up.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta understand when we talk about these things, a lot of things, like even the word Rossfechten, we say Rossfechten, but honestly, we picked up that term because that while it is the medieval word for mounted combat, it's kind of what the HEMA groups these days are using to discuss mounted combat. So long story short, say what you want. You can call it sparring, you can call it a bout, you can call it a pass. Usually when we're talking about pass, it means that you're going to start, you're going to engage, and you're going to disengage. So from the beginning and a single pass doesn't really cover a lot of the maneuvering that does go on in mounted combat, because it's really just, you know, the point at which people are going to try to stab each other or cut each other, or whatever. Yeah, so that was a totally non-helpful answer. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean,
what I would say,
yeah,
just to piggyback on that is, you know, like I said, here in the Outlands, Rossfechten has been welcomed by the rapier community as well. And it's the same books. It's a lot of the same techniques with different footwork. And I'm all for stealing things from the rapier community, because the more that we can have in common with other martial areas and with other kingdoms, the easier it is for us all to play together and understand what's going on.
Makes sense.
Well, I'm just gonna say, speaking of piggybacking, as the person who started this thing, I basically stole large portions from the various rapier and cut and thrust sections, as well as at the time, Duke Guillaume. For those of you who know Scott Farrell in the SCA, he's a big HEMA guy. He does a lot of German longsword, and he was running an unarmored combat program, which gave us within SCA statistics on the synthetics, which, I was actually added them as an afterthought, but they became so popular because, first of all, they're cheap. Second of all, people seem a little bit more comfortable with them, especially if they haven't really been handling swords before. And so we were able to take all this information and just use it. And I just love to see the crossover continue. I don't know. I mean, I don't mean to go and steal your thunder here, Apollonia, but
No,
yeah.
it works both ways too, because my husband is the Kingdom Cut and Thrust Deputy for the Outlands, and he's been taking our Rawlings longswords to practice, so he can try to recruit more people into cut and thrust that don't have the armor to do actual cut and thrust. So we have the data from the Rossfechten program that he can now go and do that at our fighter practices comfortably. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
it all circles around.
I was going to say that kind of that underlines one of the things I love about Rossfechten as it's been developing is its accessibility. We do actually have, obviously we've got the games, but in terms of, competitive martial activity, we've got jousting and we've got the Boffer style mounted combat, but certainly with jousting, and it's developed that the Boffer style, people tend to wear armor, so there's a huge outlay. It's difficult to just show up to a practice and try something out. Whereas loaner gear in the form of fencing mask, gorget, maybe a glove if you don't have one, and you can get you out there. We can get you practicing with synthetics, and you don't have to lay out $400, $500 for this, and I don't know. This is just me. It's rainbow month, so I'm like sunshine and rainbows right now. It's saying that I would love for this to become more and more popular and become a form that you can just go to a practice and you can meet people and you can try it out. We can have new people come in who've never done anything martial before and get a chance to do this. And maybe I'm optimistic, but I'd love to go and see this becomes a major form of activity for SCA Equestrian eventually. And I think it stands a good chance again because, I love jousting. I love the old style mounted combat, but I'm here to tell you I've spent $3,500 on my suit of armor, and that's even on the low end. So I don't know. Okay, I'll stop talking. Back to you, girl.
And being one of the older generation, and I'm most likely known for jousting. I'm not 20 anymore. I feel it. I hope Rossfechten would be then something I still can do, as my body doesn't like the full impact anymore.
Yeah, and it 100% is. And the calibration, we haven't had any calibration issues. My husband is, he's got a bad back and he's doing Rossfechten on a gaited horse and having a great time with it. So yeah, it's really it's accessible. And I think that's what makes it so great to be rolling out society-wide, is because it's accessible, it's affordable, and it is probably one of the more historical activities we have for the equestrian community to participate in. And hopefully all of your kingdoms, rapier communities, welcome it with open arms as well.
Is Rossfechten at the end a one-to-one contact? I don't know if I ever seen like going into melee style with Rossfechten.
We have 100% done melees, yes.
Yes.
And,
yeah.
you know, coming up with fun scenarios or teams. And yeah, melees work great with Rossfechten and they're super fun.
Oh, unless Apollonia's changed the rule set on me too. Something that after just saying, hey, don't wear armor doing Rossfechten, you don't have to. What they call in the HEMA circles, we have Blossfechten and Harnessfechten, obviously unarmored and armored. And the manuals do provide for armored combat, and we haven't written that out of the rules. So if you wanted to do an armor as worn scenario too, there's a whole bunch of stuff there. Unfortunately, a lot of it involves grappling and throwing the other person off the horse, taking their horse and stuff like that, which I don't know, they're probably simulating that in the Outlands, but you know, you can still do quite a bit with the armored combat sections of the mounted combat. Yeah, you're allowed to. You're allowed to. I haven't seen it yet, but I'd love to see it someday.
Yeah. I think that comes back to that accessibility portion, though, is a lot of people just don't have the kit. So it can be spendy.
Apollonia,
Go full German. Yeah, go ahead.
Are there any guided tutorial videos as resources to see some of the introductory movements and footwork?
Yes. There are, so Arna Coates has a bunch of fantastic videos on different guards, different techniques, different passes. I think he has a playlist with like 12 different sword plays in it. I have also started to put out some videos on some of the more footwork oriented things. There's one I did, I think last year on approaches, and I have one I'm working on right now with some of the lateral movements. And I'd like to put out one on, you know, the basic techniques, right? For people that, you know, they want to come play and not have to do all the fancy stuff. But, you know, strategy, techniques, how to get out of the toilet bowl of death, things like that. There aren't as many videos, but those are in progress. I actually have footage that I just need to publish and put out there for you guys. But there are resources available. And if you actually, that's a great question, Gwendolyn. If there is something specific that you would like to see a video of, just reach out to me and ask for it, and I will shoot it for you. I am more than happy to do that because it's really helpful for me to know, like, what do people want to see? What's going to be helpful to get people playing in this program?
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw my message, but you said toilet bowl of death. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, you did. The toilet bowl of death. It's an Outlands term that is now an international term. Huh?
Can you elaborate?
Yes. So what happens a lot in heavy mounted combat and Rossfechten is most of your fighters are going to be right-handed. And you make a pass and you come about to attack your opponent and they come about to attack you. And now you're going in a clockwise spiral, which can be very difficult to attack or escape from.
Got it.
So
Thank you.
here, I've actually got some pictures here of ways to get out of it. But basically
I've
what that's referring
experienced it,
to
but
is
I never heard it called that.
yeah. Yep, the toilet bowl of death. So it's just, here we go. I will share my handout because I have cool pictures of it. I can find it. Where is it?
I really appreciate that you're doing this because I was just thinking, I'm one of the people who has always been intimidated to really get into it because I don't think that I have the equitational skills really to ride like I seen Anna do. And listening to everybody right now feels like, oh, maybe I should just do it.
I think
Yeah,
it's
just go do
incredibly
it.
unfair to say that you have to ride like Arnie to be able to play. Does anybody here qualify?
Right.
Oh, ride
Nope.
like Arna. Yeah, I'm trying. I'm
Yeah,
trying,
but
but
if
not
we
there
make
yet.
that the requirement, I mean, it's not going to catch on much.
No, and again, it's the manuals show all of it. I mean, the manuals show, I mean, here's a guy, doing his canter pirouette to come around and whack that guy in the back of the head. And there's also Fury, and he is just walking. They're walking their horses while they are doing combat. And that is also fine. And honestly, whether, whatever speed or whatever you're doing, a lot of the strategy doesn't change very much. So we're talking about the toil of death. You can do this at a walk, at a trot, at a canter, at a gallop, with a sword, with a lance, it doesn't matter. You can still get stuck in this situation. So I included that. This is in my footwork handout. It talks about the toilet bowl of death. And then I give a few different options for how to escape the toilet bowl of death, depending on your skill technique. So, and what you and your horse are capable of doing. This one, it works really well for people with reining horses. Just gonna point that out. Or probably Gwen. Gwen can probably camp out in the middle and be pretty dangerous. So.
You're too kind.
I've seen your horses pivot. So. But yeah, what other questions do you guys have? I mean, what other ways can I help you guys get your kingdoms involved if they are not already? Or, to get marshals and, Gwen, it's going to be real short. Hopefully before this is, you can marshal it anyway. So yeah, what can we do?
So you mentioned that the cost isn't overly expensive and I won't be spending $500. Can you, in very general terms, give me an idea of what I will be spending on the minimal items that you've already listed?
Well, if your local barony or kingdom rapier community has loaner gear that they're willing to let you borrow, then it's free because it's the same stuff. So you can borrow stuff from them and it will cost you nothing. If you go on Amazon and buy everything brand new, the swords run about 60 or 70 bucks. The helmet runs about 60, 70 bucks. And then you can get, I think, a plastic gorget for 20, maybe, like the really like economy ones. And then, gloves, any leather gloves will work. And personally, I don't like to wear one on my rein hand when I do Rossfechten because I ride in double reins and it gets difficult to manipulate them with a glove on. So you really only even need one glove. So
Do they sell white gloves only?
you don't. But if you like have a pair and you lost the left one, now you have a Rossfechten glove. Throw it in your fighting bag.
That's cute.
So, and I would say, yeah, if you add all that up, it's what, 200 bucks maybe? If you buy everything brand new.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I have one more question on the marshaling. When it goes mainstream, are the existing marshals, your experimental marshals, going to automatically transfer over for each kingdom, or do we have to reauthorize for each marshal?
The marshals will transfer over, so anyone that is already a Rossfechten marshal will stay a Rossfechten marshal. But what that also means is that all of your other marshals now are going to have the option to more easily be able to do that, and following the standard equestrian guidelines for marshaling activities in your kingdom, depending on what that looks like. Yeah, I know some kingdoms marshals can author or do everything in the handbook, and other kingdoms they can only marshal things they're authorized in themselves. So that would depend on your kingdom. Okay.
Our kingdom is moving toward having advanced marshalate authorizations to go from a standard marshal to the advanced levels, such as Rossfechten. So with that in mind, what would an already existing equestrian marshal prepare themselves for? I should back up, both to be a simple participant of Rossfechten. What would that process and authorization look like? And then what would it look like for a marshal to become the overseer of safety?
Okay. So for a basic authorization for someone that is going to be participating in the Rossfechten program, or the Rossfechten activity, I guess it's not a program anymore once it goes mainstream, is they obviously need to have control of their horse at whatever gait they're choosing to ride at. So they already need to be a safe rider. Specifically for Rossfechten armor inspections, you want to make sure that when you press on the face of the mask that it's not touching their face, that they have a gorget that fits well, that their gloves don't have holes in them, and that their gloves are, at least like a leather glove or abrasive resistant material. And that's kind of pretty much it. The next thing is you want to check their calibration. So when I'm authorizing someone, I will usually spar with them a little bit and kind of see what sort of shots they're throwing. Are they not touching enough for it to register? Are they too aggressive? Is it going to be a problem that they're going to smack somebody too hard? And then the last thing that we do is we talk about, obviously, how do you ditch a weapon, which we do with all of our martial activities. And the one thing that I adopted from the jousting is how to break a thrust. So the same technique that you guys are doing on the jousting list to break a really stout thrust by, getting your elbow up there. I am training people in my Rossfechten program to do that, because if they are, again, we're still potentially cantering towards each other, and if they land a stout thrust, they need to break that impact. It works really well. We've also rolled that out and taught our fencing community to do it now that they're doing pole arms and spears. And our KEO has run off, or our rapier marshal has run off with that. So again, sharing is caring. But that's pretty much it. It's a very simple authorization. They should, they have looked at the rules. They know what's expected and required of them with their armor and their conduct on the field. For someone that wants to marshal these activities, again, it's much the same. It's know the rule book, know the armor, know the requirements, but also being able to watch engagements and be able to tell, is something going wrong? Is a horse getting stressed out? Is there someone that, maybe they're delivering a lot of stout shots and you need to have those two riders stop and recalibrate? What else can go wrong? Hopefully you don't have people that are blowing off shots. That sometimes can become a heated issue in any martial field if, someone's not being honorable about taking blows. You may have to get involved and be comfortable doing so. I'm not sure I think there's anything else. It's really similar. I mean, if you've marshaled mounted combat or jousting or anything, it's going to be a lot like that. Yes.
Just kind of a random thought, actually, tying back into the armor. And we were talking about borrowing stuff from the rapier community. For the synthetic swords, again, unless Apollonia has changed the manual since I turned it over to her, puncture resistant is not a requirement. It's, we don't have the same danger of the a broken rapier that we do with the plastic ones. So personally, not a requirement in the rule set, but personally, I find that a padded jack or a padded doublet is a kind of a nice to have, maybe a little bit of padding on your elbows too. It just makes your experience a little bit more comfortable. So anyway, that's all I got.
Oh yeah, no, I was talking about that's a good point. Thank you for clarifying. I was talking about the mask, the gorget, and gloves. When I play Rossfechten at home or at my unofficial things, I do it in a t-shirt. And if it makes you guys feel better, I've been doing this in a t-shirt out of canner, and nobody's been hurt. So super safe.
Oh, okay. I'm good. Sorry, and I will promise to keep it not indirect too much on you. But just and for those of you who are newly aware of the program, when we started off, what we did is we took a medicine ball and put it on top of a standard, and by checking how far the medicine ball fell in response to various hits, we were able to measure the force levels. And we took 16 hand horses at a gallop, locked arm thrust, and while that's a terrible thing to do, and anyone who actually does that should be pulled off the field and talked to for a bit, nonetheless, it didn't exceed the armor standards. In other words, while somebody would be probably left with a pretty darn good bruise, what's the phrase Arabella says? It says non-life altering injuries. So that's what the standards are made to. So we did a lot of force testing. We did actually a couple of years of force testing on this stuff. The synthetics, I won't say it's impossible to get hurt with them because people can be really stupid, but it's really hard. You got to be trying. Steel blades, well, there's a reason why they're not going to move out of the experimental program just yet, I think. So we just need more data.
More data.
Yeah. So anyway.
That's actually really good information. I like that.
Yeah, I was wondering, I know it's a hard concept to talk about and not show it, but can you talk a bit about what the current calibration is for blows? What's a good blow?
William, I cannot hear you. I hear you talk, but I can't. It's too
Sorry,
quiet.
I had the mic out of the way. Let me try that again. What are the current calibration guidelines? I understand that it can be difficult to explain it like in just words, but what are the current calibrations for a good blow, too heavy, too light, etc.?
So a lot of that, ideally with Rossfechten and the synthetics, this is going to be to touch, just like our rapier field. So you can have positive pressure. The difference between the Rossfechten and straight rapier is we are allowed to do percussive strikes, but we're not going to smack our friends like we're trying to with a baseball bat. And that really depends on people. So when we're doing this, we always start with very little. Now, there are some participants that want more and will give more, but that is a conversation between combatants, and the horses have to be accepting of it. Again, no one should walk away from a Rossfechten engagement with bruises unless, their horse slammed on the brakes and somebody ran into him with a sword. That is the ideal.
Thank you.
So.
Awesomeness.
Cool. All right.
I got one last question for you.
Okay.
So is this going to be, when we move it, hopefully, to non-experimental, are we going to maintain it like the Wood Joust program at the society level, or are we going to be turning it completely over to the kingdoms to administer?
I believe the plan, I know. At the moment, I believe we are going to be turning synthetics over to the kingdoms as a regular activity, because that way we can get more participation more easily. And like I said, it's safe, it's accessible, and we want to grow those numbers and have people be able to participate. The
Yeah, I completely
steel,
agree.
I don't know that that ever will. The steel may stay. We might keep that held a little closer, just because the risk is a lot greater.
And that would raise me to a question: how do we in kingdoms get marshals for Rossfechten while nobody does it here right now? Is there going to be an online training or anything else available?
Yes, we can do an online training. It is also my intention. I am always welcome to try and get out to events to do authorizations or classes. So again, if you guys, want to do that, you have an event coming up, you want to run Rossfechten or do something, just let me know and I can try to get there to that event. I'm usually happy to travel. I may not haul my horse the whole way, but more than happy to help facilitate that. And there's someone else that is also able to help facilitate that I think flies for free. So just gonna throw that out there.
Right.
We have the same name, so it's
I
super
know.
easy.
When you said fly for free, I was like, oh yeah, right. And you used to offer that all the time back in the good pre-pandemic.
Back in the
And now
golden
we
days.
talked before, and you mentioned.
Sorry to throw you under the bus, Maddie.
Yeah, I know. And I actually asked before I got into a serious relationship, but okay. But yeah, that's definitely something we can make happen in the future. So not to go and leave
We're
poor
here to help.
Apollonia all alone. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Sounds very exciting to get things started. So really, I love that you made time to get here. Sorry for rushing you to the Zoom.
Yeah.
If nobody else has questions, I am going to stop the recording. Oh, did it stop on its own?
No, maybe it did.
I know it was recording. I don't see it anymore.
I see that it's still recording.
Yeah,
Okay.
Cool. Oh, I got it. Okay, stop